What is up, everybody? It has been a while since I've been able to get a video out, and well, that's just because I'm being bounced around so much. But I figured I'd go ahead and do a little quick fill-in video. I got to do a couple little repairs on a boat, and that would be this one. This is a Cape Dory Typhoon, and some of y'all may have seen this in a DIY boating group that I'm in, just posting pictures and whatnot. Recently, I had to do a pretty good bow repair on it. He collided with another boat in a little race, and that was all in here. I had to glass it and ferret, prime it, and paint it, and I didn't cover that process, but I did get pictures. Now, the owner installed this eyelet here. I didn't do that, but I'll do a little quick slideshow real quick to show y'all the process that I did with that. So anyhow, just to show you, these little gouges right here, there's 3 of them, and I need to make those look like they never happened. So again, this is a quick fill-in video. Just figured I'd put something out there to show y'all some of the projects I'm bouncing around on. Let me walk you around here. This is a boat yard. It's a mess, but I'm in the process of videoing this behemoth. That's the ferrous cement project. It's coming along, but slowly and surely. And walk you outside to another one real quick. Just the joys of working at a boatyard. And then of course the Hankley right there that I'm working on a video with. But with this one being outside, it's all a weather permitting thing. And as we're getting into winter, well, I can only do what I can do. So anyhow, here's a slideshow with a bow issue that I dealt with on the little Cape Dory, and I'm gonna jump straight into y'all with prepping and painting. So here we go. Let me just show you a painter's little messy section. So these are all the materials that I'm going to need to knock out this task. I'm not going to be priming because, well, they're super small and I don't feel a need in doing so. But if you were doing bigger repairs, you definitely want to prime with 545 or Alexial's 442 finish primer or whatever product you decide to use. But anyhow, 220 grit, 320 grit, my fillers for filling and glazing. That'll get me through to the paint process, and after I paint, I'll use my 1500 and 3000 grit to wet sand and polish out the edges. You're going to need your masking film for when it comes time to spraying. As always, you want to use a respirator with your vapor cartridges on there. I'll be using my good old 3M accuspray gun, and you need your top coat, converter, and thinners, and denatured alcohol for solvent prep. So just thought I'd note that. Here we go. Let's get it done. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tape off my areas that I need to repair, and I'm going to time lapse this. Let's get it done. All right, so now that's taped. I'm going to use my good old denatured alcohol, and I'm going to solvent wipe these areas to remove any contaminants before I start sanding and filling. All right, she's clean. Now I'm going to sand, and I'm going to do this by hand. And when hand sanding, it's always a good idea to take, I use a Scotch Brite, cut it to the shape of the paper, and it acts as an interface pad. And well, that allows you to get a nice even sand and not kind of wallow out the surface, so that when you spray it, you don't see kind of dimples or anything like that. So I just wanted to note that. I'm gonna sand these areas real quick and then mix up some filler. All right, guys, time to mix up filler. These repairs are gonna go super quick. So now I'm going to use a 3M premium filler. This is a vinyl ester filler. It dries really quick, so you don't have much working time with it. Now, when you're using this and you get your little tube hardener, you always want to just squeeze that. Make sure you get all the liquids and the solids mixed in together before you go mixing up your filler. So just to show you real quick, for those that don't know, I don't need much. So just going to put a little bit on there like that. and you just use the slightest amount of hardener for this. That might actually been too much, but that's okay. It's gonna kick just fine and I'll be able to sand it pretty quick. You wanna mix this till it's all one uniform color of blue, and then you'll be good to go. I'm gonna knock out all these repairs today, and then tomorrow I'll come in, wet sand and polish, and then I can send it. So the only thing that could go wrong is I mess up when I'm spraying, but I don't think that'll happen. But I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna tap on some wood. All right, she's mixed up, ready to fill. Here we go. All right, everybody, so the first go of filling with the 3M Premium Filler is done. This one I will not have to fill again because I managed to knock that out with one go, but these 3 spots I'll have to do once more. So when I pulled the tape and y'all just saw me quickly go around with a rag, I was just wiping off the filler buildup that caught the tape edges because I wanted to minimize my sanding. But so now the next step is I'm gonna go ahead and sand these areas again with 220. Tape off, mix up the same filler like I just did, and glaze it all out one more time. So here we go. All right, so the second application of the premium filler is done. Now I'm gonna go ahead and quickly sand this with 220, and hopefully it's flush and where it needs to be so that I can jump straight into the acrylic filling just to glaze out the porousness of the premium filler. I will not know that until I'm finished sanding this go around. So I'm gonna time lapse it. Here we go. All right, so the second go of sanding's done now. This one's definitely good. I can still feel that one. That one's good. And I can still feel that one. Now, if you can feel it, you'll see it in the paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and glaze out these 2 places one more time, and then I'll jump into the acrylic filler. So I just wanted to jump in and note real quick. Y'all saw how I just was rubbing it with my finger. So now I have to back step and solvent clean those areas because you know, the waxy, oily substance in your skin, you risk contaminating the surface, so it's best just to be safe than sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and solvent wipe this again real quick before I start filling. Third time's a charm. Let's go. Okay, pretty confident that did it. Again, I'm gonna sand it real quick with 220 grit, pull the tape, then I'm gonna jump to 320. Here we go. All right, before jumping to 320 real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and use the 3M acrylic filler and glaze out these areas just to fill in the porousness of the premium filler. And then I'll 320 it and we'll go ahead and get into the prep and spray mode. So here we go. All right, everybody, time to do the finishing sanding. Now I'm gonna be using 320 with my interface pad on my Air DA to finish this off. And I'm gonna go ahead and just make this one repair and then a little repair there and a little repair there. So here we go, let's get it done. All right, so that's how I'm gonna do it. Now, just for those of you that don't know, yes, these were small repairs, but you always end up doubling or tripling the size of the repair when doing this type of work to make it look like it's actually supposed to. So I just wanted to note that. And now what I'm gonna do, usually I would use 600 grit and go around the perimeter, but it's such a small area, I'm just gonna use 1500 grit and just work around this so that the overspray has something to grip to, and I'll be able to wet sand and polish it out and there not be a halo. Any overspray that hits up here, you know, it's not critical. I'm gonna be shooting at a really low pressure, so I'll be able to polish that out when I polish out this section. I'm not worried about it. You're not gonna be able to tell when I'm finished. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and 1500 grit this, get it masked off, mix up the paint, start shooting. Here we go. Now, something I've noted in the past, and I'm gonna note it again, when running plastic for a repair, I like to run my plastic backwards so that when you pull it back, it rolls the tape edge, and if the overspray hits it, it's just a faded line that you have to polish out. It just makes a really huge difference, and it cuts back on sanding time. So I just wanted to note that, and just to show you real quick what I'm talking about. You know, I feel like a broken record at times with a lot of these videos because I basically do the same thing on every video. It's just a matter of a different boat or a different color. But so there, pull the plastic back like that, and when you pull it tight, the tape rolls over, and it's not a hard line for the paint to head up, and it, you know, it really does cut back on the sanding if needed. So just wanted to note that. Here we go. Okay, everybody, here we go. It's time to mix up the paint. This is Stepco green. It's basically seafoam green, but it's just a little bit different. And this is a 2-to-1 mix ratio. You allow it to induct for 15 minutes, and then you add up to 25% reducer, which I always do. As always, I'm using my good old 3M accuspray. I have the 1.2 cap on here, and yeah, this is gonna go good. I'm gonna spray 4 or 5 coats. I'm going really light, very low pressure, just to minimize the overspray. I probably didn't even have to mask off, but better safe than sorry. So anyhow, I'm gonna get to mixing, time lapse, and I'll jump in with y'all on the next step. All right. All right, so while I'm waiting for that to induct, before adding the thinner, I'm gonna go ahead and solvent wipe. And as always, I'm using denatured alcohol. Everybody likes to use their own preferred product. Me, I just stick with what I know. And I'm sure there's many of y'all watching this right now that might have done these repairs differently, but this is how I do them, and this is how I'm gonna show people that they could be successful at doing it. So to each their own. So here we go. And this allows me to see if I missed anything. And that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna wipe it one more time. And then once the paint's done inducting and I can thin it, I'll tack rag right before I start spraying. So I'm not spraying this whole area, but I'm cleaning it anyway, just in case the overspray hits it. So there we go. That's all we got to do. I'll get with y'all in a minute. All right, so the paint's done inducted and it's thinned and ready to be sprayed, but first we got a tack rag. Now, I've mentioned this in the past. When you do it ever so slightly. If you come to a stop or lean onto the surface with it, you have to back step, pull the solvent out, and re-solvent clean again, because this has a waxy residue in it, and if you're not careful, you will get fish eyes. So I just wanted to note that, and because this is such a small area to spray, I'm gonna go ahead and cover this whole thing in real time with y'all. So here we go. Let's get it done. All right, so right now, because it's so small, I'm gonna narrow my fan down and cut the paint flow way back. So I'm gonna show you, it's gonna be something like this. All right, here we go.
And that's it. You don't go for color coverage, you just get a light tack coat on there. And once that cures enough for the next coat, then you start going for color coverage. And what I'm gonna do, I just shot the plastic there so I can do my thumb test to find out when I'm ready for the next coat. So I'll get with y'all when it's that time.
All right, now I'm gonna do the thumb test, see if we're ready for the next coat. And what you do is you just stick your finger where the paint hits, count to 1 or 2, pull it off, and there's no paint on there. So now I'm ready for the second coat. Let's do it.
Now just so y'all know, in case you can't see it, I'm staying in the field of my 320 grit scratch until I get to the last coat, and then I'll do a full coat over all of that. So it's slowly getting color coverage, it's looking good, and I'll see y'all in a minute.
I did the thumb test, we're good for coat number 3. Now I'm gonna boost the paint flow up just a little bit, and I'm gonna start gunning for color coverage. So here we go.
The one thing I hate about doing small paint jobs or repairs is watching paint dry. It's irritating, but it comes with the job. All right, that's 3 down.
All right, thumb test. 1, 2. Nothing on there. Let's go.
It's really hard to see, especially with my shadow interfering, but I got it. It doesn't need another coat, so I'm gonna go ahead and let this tack up a minute. The color will flow and blend in, and then I'll unmask it and everything, and well, that'll be a wrap. Tomorrow I'll wet sand and polish. I'm gonna have the heat cranked up in here up to 80 degrees until I leave today, so this is going to be just fine, and I'll get back with y'all soon.
All right, guys, it's done. You know, it's tacked off. I'm gonna go ahead and boost the heat up just so I can cook it. It's already 75 degrees in here, but I want to get it up to like 80 for the next hour or so, just so I don't have to worry about any issues while I'm gone this evening. It's going to drop down into the upper 20s, low 30s tonight, and just better safe than sorry, but I'm not worried. I know it'll be fine. But anyhow, you know, just for doing the spraying, that's pretty good. It'll be really easy for me to polish this out tomorrow, and what I'll do is I'll wet sand with 3000 grit around the perimeters of where I sprayed, and then I'll hit it with like an ultra fine machine polish, and then seal that up with a couple coats of a copolymer type product, just, you know, just to make sure it keeps its shine. But other than that, she's good to go. So anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and unmask it, and tomorrow when I get into the wet sanding, I'll bring y'all back to it, and then I'll upload the video. So with that being said, I'll see y'all then. everybody, everything cured properly, and now it's time to wet sand and polish out around the repair areas. So I'm gonna start out with 1500. This is gonna be kind of hard to see because in the building, shadows, all that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and time lapse this whole process, and I'll jump in with you when it's time to start polishing, and then I'll get the boat outside and walk y'all around. So here we go. Okay, so that's all that's needed with the 1500 grit. Now I'm going to 3000 grit. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, time to get the polishing. I got my machine polisher with the foam pad. This is what you want to use when you're doing a repair on a painted surface. If I was on a gel coat surface, I'd be using the wool pad. So don't use the wool pad on paint, even though some people do. I do not. I'm going to be using a 3M's Finesse It. This is equivalent to an ultrafine machine polish. And yeah, I'm going to get the rub-a-dub-dubbing. So I'll catch up with y'all at the end. We'll pull her outside and we'll see what she looks like. All right, the machine polishing went well. I can't see where my repairs were, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next step and apply this polymer wax type substance. This is just true wax. It's made by Armada, and it works good for painted surfaces as well as gel coat, etc. So I'm gonna apply 2 coats of this by hand and then wipe that off, and we'll wheel her outside and see what she looks like in the natural sunlight. So here we go. All right, everybody, that's a done deal. It came out pretty good, and you can't tell that it was ever scratched. So let me show you real quick. Can't even tell. Actually, this section of the boat looks better than the rest of it. That's what happens when you wet sand and polish, though. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Reach up there and hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Share with your friends, and yeah, I'm gonna get these other videos out as soon as I can. Y'all just bear with me. And again, everything I do in all of my videos is just the way I do it. You know, other people do things differently, and well, to each their own, but I'm sharing with y'all how I do it and how you can accomplish a satisfactory job. So I'll see y'all next time. All right.